Hey everyone, Daniel Reddick here with Benton County. Good evening. I just wanted to let folks know we don't have anybody that said they couldn't make it today. So just for expected attendance.
Okay, very good. I think we can wait a few minutes then. Does that include Ian McNabb?
Ian and Mark did not provide a response whether or not they'll be able to make it. So it does not include Ian or Mark.
Okay. Can't hear you, Joel.
Joel, if you need other audio options, we have a call-in phone number that you can use as well that I can send over to you via email if that's helpful.
Just checking it right now.
We can hear you, John.
And I think you can probably hear me. This is Mark.
Can hear you, Mark.
Thank you.
Chat disabled.
Correct. Yeah. Just like usual.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening, Chuck. So let's see, we're still waiting for Marge and Brent and Ian, possibly. And also Joel, I guess, will be signing back in. Someone is going to have to help me with the chit chat. I got nothing. It's going to rain tomorrow. That's kind of all I know, small talk wise. We can't hear you, Chuck.
It's a nice redwood forest you got behind you.
Actually, I think it's a forest in Tasmania, but I forget where I got this.
Yes, yes. Look at the roots and stuff like that. Yeah, yeah.
It's Middle Earth. It's
yeah, yeah, that's right. See some hobbits moving there pretty soon.
You can watch them dash through from time to time.
Yeah.
You may hear me now.
We can. Hello, Joel.
The miracles of GoToMeeting.
Oh, but we're on Zoom now, aren't we?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess so.
We can no longer make fun of GoToMeeting.
Okay, yeah, but bummer. Okay, yeah, it would be nice to have chat enabled for the situation, but yeah. Okay. Anyway, hello everybody. Sorry to be late. I had chimed in twice, 3 times, but my microphone is always showing error messages.
Glad you got it straightened out. All right, I'm not really inclined to wait any longer. Oh, here comes Marge. Whew, just in time.
I vote, let's go.
Okay, good suggestion, Debbie. So I'm going to gavel this meeting into order. What is today? Today is December 7th, 2022. This is joint session, I should say, of the Solid Waste Advisory Council and the Disposal Site Advisory Committee. And let's see, the first order of business is just to acknowledge that we have a big and even bigger packet going of issues that we can't really handle. This work session is really dedicated to talking with our ambassadors at the Trash Talk Work Group and hearing their input and providing same back to them. So we'll be focusing on that. But I do want to acknowledge to John Hart, Nancy Whitcomb, Greg Pollock, Chuck Gilbert, Ronna Foster, Joel Geyer, and Mark Yeager. Now they all have materials of substance in the packet. So is there anything else that people want to raise before we go into talking with our, well, actually, I'm kind of hoping, Marge, that are you there and hearing, can you hear us?
Oh, sorry. Oh, here. Just a second. Okay.
We can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, now we can see you too.
Okay.
Yes, good.
Okay. Yeah. Did you want me to speak on a subject or just
No,
introduce?
I just wanted, I could see that you were present, but I wanted to know how present you were. So
Well, that's still an open issue.
indeed. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into the work group session. And I'm just going to turn it over initially to Marge and Joel for you to report on whatever you think the committee and the council should know, and any questions that you might have. Yeah.
Okay. I would want to ask Marge to go first, maybe, but I think I know a couple of you, at least 2 or 3 of you, maybe. Chuck has been attending the meetings, and Ken, you've been on the subcommittees, and you may know more than I about some of them. And also, I think Mark is in the same situation. I'm not sure if anyone else I'm missing, but so I would just hope that any of you who have actually have better knowledge than me could please chime in with your own suggestions or comments or whatever. So, but Marge, did you want to jump in or should I?
Well, I can say that I just left the subcommittee e-meeting, which has had 2 meetings now. Earlier this evening was our second meeting. And I think we've made some progress in terms of thinking about ways that the county can more effectively communicate with the community. In terms of making sure that, well, everybody in our community is informed about things like the solid waste process work group, but also probably more importantly, that they are notified in a timely manner on things like franchise agreements and CUPs, and of that, the CUP is probably the most urgent, or the first on the horizon. So we discussed many different avenues of communicating with the public, because today you can't just put an ad in the newspaper. There are just so many venues that people get their information from. And so we discussed maybe we would, the county would try to find budget for sending out actual snail mail messages to people. And we also talked about how to formulate the, I guess, the introduction to the written report. And we different members of the committee were assigned to different parts of that. Mary Parmigiani and oh gosh,
Ginger
Louisa,
yeah.
are going to handle the community contact part, and Mark, not Mark Hinkles, who is a new member of our committee. He and I are going to work on the historical introduction to the document.
where does he come from? Is he?
Yeah, Mark is a professor at the university in Monmouth, and he's a public affairs professor.
Okay.
And has just a lot of experience. I think maybe his childhood was spent in South Creek, lives in the Lewisburg area.
Mhm.
And so I just think he'd be a real awesome addition, given his policy background to our subcommittee.
It is good to get some Polk County participation in this whole process. They've been kind of left out in the loop, so.
Well, I think the commissioners, or what Sam had said was that the commissioners had strongly wanted this to be about Benton County. I mean, we want input from other counties, but this is a product for Benton County.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I just know that there are people in Polk County who live in basically in the same, when you go half a mile north to
Yeah.
Crawford
You're
Butte,
right.
you're in
right
Polk
on
County.
the-
So
on
yeah.
yeah, it's right on the border.
So there are people
Well,
who are very interested. Yeah.
Well, gosh, I mean, that's a valid thing that we can bring up to that subcommittee
Mhm.
is doing, maybe trying to do some kind of contact with people outside the county. And certainly invite them to the work group or to give testimony. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know. I have, a lot of friends in Monmouth, and I know one of them has wanted to join this, but he's got a pacemaker. He just got put in, so he can't join right now. But yeah. So anyway, yeah,
They are impacted.
Yeah, the landfill is right on the edge of the county. So like, Polk County has to be treated with respect too. That's my view.
Yes.
But yeah, that's getting outside of our, anyway, thanks for that information. That's good to know what's going on there. So is this committee charged with the main report for the overall committee, or how does it work?
It's charged with writing the kind of the history component of the report. And then I think to review the executive summary and to handle and facilitate and improve communications with the community.
Okay. And was there any talk about like the timeline? So if Republic issues a CUP application, that seems to be critical, when that actually gets communicated, because sort of last time around the community didn't hear about it until the absolute almost last day.
And that came up, that the fact that was not communicated in a timely manner. And kind of the thrust of this is, what can we do so that does not happen again?
Yeah. I mean, it would really be really nice to actually hear the day that application lands in the lap of Benton County, what has been proposed.
Well, I mean, okay, so the county has a mailing list of about 10,000 people that they can email with, that they have an email list of. The county has about 100,000 inhabitants. So they have an email list of 10%. So the only way that they can communicate, across the board with resident, according to my understanding of listening to Corey Grogan talk at the meeting. So it seemed, I think we all kind of inferred that the only way that they could get broad coverage of the residents of Benton County is with snail mail, because there is a system where, all people's addresses are public record. I didn't know this, Corey Grogan mentioned this. And so they just go to this service and this mailing service that knows how to access that database, and then they mail out to everybody. Corey thought that that might cost $5,000, but it could be more. And so it's a bit of a budget issue. I mean, an email is free, but sending a postcard, is what we were kind of thinking about, is because postcards are cheaper than an enclosure in an envelope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking more of like landfill neighbors, basically, because they're already there's a
Right,
notification list, and
right.
that's a much smaller list, and that could be they
That's
already
right.
they already have the list from last time around. So
Well, yes, and they probably could get a list by zip code. And I brought that up and said that in the neighborhood I live in, when there's any development going on, I always get a letter saying that this is happening. And it didn't appear to me that that had happened with respect to the last CUP or the franchise agreement. And I think there is an effort to address that situation. But we will be reporting on this in the work group meeting on December 15th. And anybody who has anything to say or to support that, or to say, we think $5,000 is a good investment for this, please say that. Yeah.
yeah, thanks. Otherwise, I thought we might just run through the different subcommittees and just A, B, C, D, E. I don't know much about this one. This is the landfill size, capacity, and longevity community subcommittee. But Ken, okay. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm on that subcommittee, and Chuck is on that subcommittee. I'm blanking now on who else might be. There are 4 of us, right? Yeah, Mark is. And Ian. So who would like to take it on of the attendees? Mark, how about, are you okay?
Sure. Yeah, I can talk about it, unless you want to save me for the land use compliance subcommittee, which I'm also serving on, and I don't know if anyone else who's here is on that. So maybe I should wait for that, and someone else can take the landfill size group. That makes sense?
It does. I guess I'm happy to do it. The landfill size, capacity, longevity subcommittee is moving along pretty forthrightly, I would say. It's being well directed, kind of has been from the beginning, by Paul Niedfeld, who really put together an excellent outline about what the issues were. We've really been following that outline. And those issues really have to do with the physical parameters of the landfill, which, at least to me at the beginning, seemed like a fairly simple thing. You have permitted space, you have stuff coming into that permitted space, it's filling up at a certain rate. There's a certain amount of variability, in that inflow, but it turns out to be a more complex equation than that. Complicated, I would say, primarily because a lot of the permitted space is actually occupied by solid rock within the quarry at the present time. And so there's, something which Republic does not want us to call a quarry problem, but which, that's a fairly communicative way to say it. They're trying to figure out, is there a way to remove the rock before the landfilling operation needs to move into that space? Or is there a way for it to coexist in the same space? there are a lot of dilemmas about that, which are currently kind of in the hands of Republic and their franchisee, Knife River, to resolve, and we haven't really been apprised of what, if anything, but we haven't been apprised of kind of what the results of the negotiations or what the results of those negotiations are. There's been a lot of talk. That's not the way to say it. One of the things that's come forward in the outline is the site development plan, which was filed in 2021, which kind of lays out how much space, how much permitted space, has a timeline for filling, et cetera. So there's a lot of impetus, I would say, right now in essentially holding to that plan, which would have Republic starting to use the quarry area as landfill, approximately transitioning over in the year 2025. I think 2025 is when the quarry site would need to be, the preparations would need to prepare for that. The contribution that I'm making for that committee is just to look at the human factors, not just the physical parameters, but the changes which are possible in the future, just having to do with landfill legislation, with environmental activism, with the competitive landscape of landfilling. All of these have been issues in the past. I mean, the reason that we have a big influx of trash coming in was because essentially environmental activism prevented the riverbend landfill from expanding, which indeed diverted a lot of garbage to Coffin Butte. But changes like that are certainly, in the wind. Landfill methane is a big issue. Methane is a big issue right now, having to do with climate change. Climate change, is a big issue, perhaps the number one issue for voters in the US. And so all of those sorts of human factors, the sorts of legislation which is already underway, et cetera, all stand to have their impacts upon the rate of trash which is going into Coffin Butte. So I think I've kind of stumbled around in the having to do with that particular subcommittee. If Chuck or Mark, if you have anything to add, I'm sure the things I've overlooked. Well, Joel, you've got your hand up, sure.
Yeah, I was just curious. I mean, always to me, the most obvious thing that could happen is that Knife River might expedite their excavation and create space earlier. Has there been any discussion of that?
Well, there has in the negotiations that Republic is having with Knife River. But we're not privy to those conversations. So what that has, the way that's played out is every meeting of that subcommittee, we ask the Republic representatives if they know anything yet, and they tell us no. So, we haven't really been apprised of what the issues are, kind of surrounding that. I mean, there was earlier testimony for the first CUP by the representative from Knife River, Tyrone Bellegarde.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember correctly, he was just assuming that when the time came, the landfill would move into the quarry, and that would be that. So I'm not sure. I mean, he had mentioned the fact that they already had discussions about pre-removing the quarry material, but he said that didn't pencil out. Maybe it pencils out now, I don't know. That's probably some part of the discussions that they're having have to do with, on and penciling it out who gets the hit and who doesn't. But that's just speculation on my part.
Okay, I guess they would need to pilot somewhere if they do. Okay, yeah, anything, I don't know if, I'm just looking through what else we have going on here. There's A, B, C. I can't keep track of these subcommittees. C. Well, there's a committee D, which is a legal issues subcommittee. Oh yeah, committee C. I should talk about that. That's actually the one I'm in. I can't keep track of them. So that's the Sustainable Materials Management Plan thing.
So hang on just a minute, Joel. I just want to make sure that we're all done with the landfill size committee, because I feel like I've kind of made a hash of it, perhaps.
Okay.
But
Chuck,
I'm not very verbal today. Chuck, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Ken. Appreciate it. Paul was real good in declaring, if you would, in some of his analysis, if we look at the size, in the sense that the size represent acreage, and he identified there in the northern part where the landfill is, there's 194 acres. So we put that in context. And then that portion south, which is in the disposal area along with the landfill, is 54 acres. And he was kind enough to look through all the documents, and so that put that into context. So what the committee is advancing then is also using some tables and maps to correlate information for everybody. So, and Daniel was kind enough to start helping that with Benton County. And fundamentally, the way it will work is we'll use one map so everybody can get kind of in the context of what the cells are today. But the chronological order is to reflect maybe what was in there in 1940, and just that cell will color in one color. And then as it progresses to the 70s or whatever chronological order they want to depict, then we can depict those colors for that time. So you're just looking at 40, 50, 60, or 70, whatever the group wants to reflect on that map. And then, of course, there's some other areas where there's still property on the outside of that. So we want to try to get one map where you can just kind of turn it on and off in that situation, identify everything. And then what everything boils down to is capacity of cells. We've moved down pretty much with all the intake material, and Mark's been instrumental in this too, looking at it, giving suggestions. And now really what it boils down to is the active cells and 5 and 6. And what's really relevant is the synchronization and timing with 6 with the resources of Cough and Butte. And that's what Bill and Ian are trying to look at. It's just what the aggregate is left there to make.
Bill is,
yeah, to make a decision of how much really needs to excavated there, and then the timing to be able to move into it.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. Yeah, Joel.
good question. Yeah, just is Bill, that's Bill Brumman, that's the
Bill
Republic
Brumman,
guy.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yes.
and then just checking on the names.
So I should just add for those people who are not on the committee that the site development plan, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the site development plan, shows enough capacity in the landfill as currently configured, no expansion, to take Benton County through the year 2038. That's kind of the projection, the operating projection that's part of that plan. So yeah, I just wanted to say that for the benefit of our audience. And then Mark, I noticed that there's a letter in the packet from you, the most recent thing. And I'm just wondering if that applies here, if you wanted to say something about it. I didn't want to cut you off.
Sure, thanks, Ken. I mean, the letter that I sent in, which was sent in middle of November, I guess, I sent to the large work group and to the subcommittee as well. Just expressing or posing some questions, if you will, about the process and timing, because the gist of my letter is that it was in response to some discussion that took place at the Landfill Life Subcommittee, and we were talking about different assumptions and how those assumptions might affect the life of the landfill. When I say life of the landfill, I mean, how long can the landfill continue to accept waste and for emplacement? And in response to that, the Republic Services to sort of tailor our assumptions to be to reflect the fact that Republic Services has entered into numerous contracts to accept waste. And my letter to the group basically was, I understand that Republic Services can do that. They're certainly welcome to enter into many contracts, but those contracts are with Republic Services and not, in fact, with Benton County. And so the space problem that exists seems to me, this is what I said in my letter, is a problem of Republic Services own making. And so there's a concern I have, which is that until we are able to understand what options are available as alternatives to landfilling. So this is tied directly to the work that the SMMP folks are doing, the Sustainable Materials Management Plan. We cannot answer the questions of, if not the landfill, then what? So it is imperative that, at least from my perspective, that we take the time to understand what rational options are available besides landfilling. And it appears that we have space in the landfill to be able to take that time. So I don't think that the county should be forced into having to respond to an expansion request until we have the information to understand what the alternatives are. That was the gist of my letter. Thank you.
Yes. Now, Mark, it's been my impression that Republic has backed off essentially from that point of view. It's still, I think, presented quite openly on their website, where they talk about essentially there's only 4 years left, etc. But in the subcommittee meetings with the Republic people there, they seem to be indicating more and more that they would just follow they would follow the site development plan, that they would indeed just move into the quarry area, etc. Obviously, that hasn't been determined exactly what that means, but and also the Republic people in the subcommittee aren't necessarily Republic people making the decisions about these things. But anyway, that I just felt that to kind of give that context there, Republic was very strong about the fact that it had a quarry problem was also Benton County's problem. And now they seem to be saying, no, it's actually an internal. They've kind of shifted, apparently shifted. Anyway, that's my read on the situation.
I do agree that it appears that in Bill Broman's reporting out to the subcommittee that Republic Services is actively working with Knife River to see about expediting the extraction of aggregate from the quarry in order to be able to move in there sooner. So,
Okay.
but nothing obviously is firmed up. They're just having discussions, as was mentioned earlier in your report.
Okay. So Chuck, but you need to be brief. I do want to move on to the next subcommittee.
Well, I just agree with Mark. Timing is everything to understand information, and what needs to go hand in hand, and I'm hoping it is some of the information that we learn here transitions to the solid waste management plan, or there, because that's basically the short range, long range, as we come out of this, say, okay, we have a service life of X amount of years. What technologies out there that they can invoke to reduce solid waste, either to energy or look at other landfills that maybe have a better handle on changing it to energy too, with their capital investments. But that information needs to, like Mark is saying, is we need to first identify what's the longevity of this landfill is now, so we can sit down with the counties and other entities there to come up with really a regional landfill development, because even though it's in Benton County, if you will, it still invokes a regionalism, if you will, from municipalities and everybody else. So when we say they have other contracts, it's not only with Benton County, it's the city of Shed, Albany, and all those other identities that, if you will, the cost may look prohibitive from a Benton County, but when you get all the regional players together, then there's a cost benefit ratio with that.
Yeah, excellent. That's a good segue to the Sustainable Materials Management Plan. Joel, can you talk to that?
Yeah, so this is the one committee I've actually been involved in, although I actually wasn't able to attend the first two meetings because they were scheduled when I was sending over Sweden on my way to catch COVID. Marge may know more about what happened during those meetings. I caught up with the last one. And basically what's being done in that committee is to work through what would be the draft outline of a sustainable materials management plan, which this group already, we looked at this. I think Daniel brought a early draft to us about a year ago, or 6 months or so ago. And then we didn't really make much progress with that. But the idea is that this would run through all of the options, as Marcus suggested, including looking at alternatives to landfilling. And the idea of a sustainable materials management plan is that not only are we looking at just solid waste disposal, but we're also looking at the sort of the whole life cycle of the what could go into the landfill, or preferably would go into other things. So recycling, reuse, and all these other things, composting. And it hasn't, as I said, I sort of got into the back end of this process when the rest of the committee had already worked through most of the table of contents. But the idea is that we're all supposed to give our input on this big long table of contents on different sections of it. We did discuss looking at ideas outside the county in terms of things like waste to energy, and also European perspectives came into the discussion last time around. Alternative ways of handling things that really haven't been looked at in this county yet, besides landfilling. And what I wanted to communicate with the group is that there's a deadline, I guess, of this Friday. I don't know if Daniel's still around, but he said that he would take input up until Friday. And we're trying to fill in. Hi, Daniel. So that we could give our own input on what we thought should really be going into these sections when this goes out. The whole thing, I haven't really said this clearly, but the whole thing is kind of aimed at going to a request for proposal from some outside consultant. And the county commissioners have informed us that they have something like a $500,000 budget to work with this, which is pretty substantial and could do quite a lot. And so the idea is that this would frame the work for the consultant based on what the county sees as really important, what the people of Benton County see as important. In the earlier meetings, I understand there was talk about the goals of the county. and how to bring those into this so that what comes out of this would actually reflect the long-term goals. I can't remember if it's 2020, 2034, 2050. March, you know that.
2040.
Yeah, the 2040, goodness, okay, so it's core
Right.
values.
Thriving
initiative.
communities
Core values.
initiative.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't.
And I think that we discussed a lot that this should be integral to this process, the core values that were expressed by Benton County and Corvallis in this. I think this initiative took place in 2019, where they put together core values of the kind of community that we want to live in. And this proposal, this structure for an RFP should imbue those values, and the consultant should be able to trace back all of their recommendations to the values that are stated by our county. Because we have an extraordinary county. We have a county that could serve as a template for other communities. We have a county where people are really environmentally active and sustainability oriented. And I think it's really important. And I think it's getting into going into this RFP that we highlight that aspect of our community. And in addition to just the raw table of contents, there'll be an introduction to each major section of the document, which will give us the opportunity to put information about how we are, what our residents, what is meaningful to our residents, and how we could put together a plan that would be far more sustainable than what exists today.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is this is why I wanted to have the chat working tonight, because I was actually going to share the website address so I could just give you all a link to this outline that we've all been looking at, because again, I have to defer to Daniel on this, but I would be happy to just take input from all of you, but probably that's not allowed under SWAC DSAC rules. So probably it just needs to go right to Daniel. If any of you have really strong opinions on any of these sections and you want to get some language into this, I would suggest going to the, I think Corey Grogan sent out a announcement that has a link right into the work group, and probably in there you can find the link to this SSMP, because this is something that I think the idea is that this will also come back to us as SWAC or DSAC, whichever applies, to look at and comment on. So maybe we get another chance to speak on it later, but at least I would just wanted to mention that this is happening, because this is something where all of you probably have some ideas already, and it would be really good to have your thoughts in this. And I'm just seeing, and I just see Brent Pawlowski, or is it Pawlowski or Pawlowski?
Pawlowski, thanks.
Okay,
sorry,
thanks.
I've been down with the flu and just actually got up.
I know the feeling. Yeah, I hope you're feeling better soon. Are you just into it now, or are you?
No, it's just the tail end. This is first I've been able to sit up. So.
Okay, well, nice.
But thanks.
Nice to meet you, and sorry about the circumstances.
Yeah. So Daniel, can you pass out that URL to the members of this committee, the one that Joel's talking about, to that outline, because the Friday deadline to get those comments in is indeed a significant deadline, I would say, and this is a very amenable topic, I think, for public input. So if Daniel, if you can pass out the URL. I think people would want to take a look at that. I just wanted to mention also that the subcommittee compiled lists of other sustainable materials management plans done by other counties in Oregon. And so the outline that the draft outline that we're looking at is kind of a result of compiling kind of everything that was in there. But one of those examples in particular, the Portland Metro, their sustainable materials management plan, very much values driven and very much a model for how I think that can be done. Yeah.
But I think unless Marge wants to say more, I think that's basically where we're at. Is that?
Yeah.
And then there's this
Okay.
other committee, which is called Charge D, which is the legal subcommittee. I don't think we have anybody here that can actually speak to that unless I see Sam Imperati's on the call. Maybe he wants to chime in and say where that's at.
Well, we have Mark. We have Mark.
Oh, okay. Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
You don't want to gloss
Yeah.
him over.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Mark.
We've been saving Mark for this report.
The best.
Just to clarify, I'm not on the legal issues subcommittee. I'm on the landfill life subcommittee and also the land use compliance
Right.
subcommittee.
So we're talking about
And
land use compliance, right?
that's what I'm talking about then,
Yeah.
would be the land use compliance subcommittee. And that committee has been meeting regularly. And we are working on a number of different documents. There is an overarching document which started out at about 60 pages long that Inga Williams from the county. So the members of our work group of the subcommittee are Inga from the county, Jeff Condit from our public services, their attorney, and then Ed Patera, who was on the work group, Catherine Bisco, who is also on the work group, and myself. So there's 5 of us on the subcommittee. And so there was a 60 page document that the county initially put together that was a listing of all land use actions that have been associated with the landfill beginning at 1974, going through to 2021. I think there are somewhere on the order of 80 plus conditions of approval or those types of characterizations. And the committee members are going through and looking at those conditions of approval, trying to ascertain whether or not, based on the evidence that has been presented by staff and by also reviewing many of the voluminous number of notices of decisions, trying to figure out whether or not Republic Services or the prior owners, because it's not always been Republic Services, whether the prior owners have completed or have maintained compliance with the conditions of approval that were associated with particular land use activities. So that document now has expanded to, I think, 125 pages, and we're not anywhere close to being done. So we're trying to work our way through, we've drafted up an introductory number of paragraphs to try to give the average reader some idea of what to expect, and sort of guide them through and where to look for different things. We're trying to determine whether or not prior land use actions, whether or not the landfill owner is in compliance, whether it's not been demonstrated that compliance is happening, whether it's not in compliance, whether we need some more information, whether or not there's important background information to be reviewed. So it's pretty complex, but anyhow, that's what we're doing. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks for working on that. It sounds gruesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, gruesome. Yeah.
Well, let's see. I wanted to add, not about that one. Thank you for that really clear report, Mark. But going back to the previous one about the Sustainable Materials Management Plan. A lot of the same considerations, which I mentioned, having to do with the operating life of the landfill for that subcommittee, also apply pretty much directly to this Sustainable Materials Management Plan, and just the way we've been talking about. So, for example, legislation about methane, those are concerns which we very much would like the consultant to take into account, to really be on top of, because being experts in the area, they should be able to get a pretty good read on kind of what the future is about legislation, activism, legal parameters, et cetera, and we'll know how to position Benton County so that we're not caught, blindsided by these things, but actually have a plan in place or can anticipate them. And so, kind of that sort of future thinking about it, I think is, we're trying to make that an important part also of that request for proposal for that plan. And I also just wanted to mention that we have a concern that I have a concern that kind of the process that we've got looking for that plan, I'm worried that it's looking for a Me Too plan, that by looking too much at what other counties have done, we will have a plan which is in essence just like theirs and won't actually have the sort of reflection of Benton County's values that Marge was looking about. But also we're looking at old plans, whereas, the situation for a plan developed in 2014 or 2016, it's now 2022, it's the end of 2022, we're about into 2023. There's a lot more future, a lot more that we know about kind of the future situation. I mean, the environmental situation has changed kind of completely in terms of urgency and, et cetera. And so I want to very much make sure that Benton County gets the best consultant, not, just a middle of the road consultant. And kind of working from old plans is really just about getting a plan which is, kind of Me Too. Yeah, Joel.
Oh, I think I saw Brent with his hand up earlier, and I just want to make sure he gets a chance because I think we might run out of time here pretty quick.
Sorry.
Oh, no, just a quick question to Mark, that you talk about these two subcommittees, the landfill life and compliance. How long have those committees been meeting? Are these new committees, or you've been at this for a year or so?
No. These are new subcommittees that are part of the Benton County Talks Trash work group. So there's the big work group where there's 18 or 20 people sitting around a table, and then the subcommittees. As far as I know, the subcommittees first began meeting in late October. So they were formed to try to help the larger work group get its collective arms around the many and various issues that are out there, rather than the whole group trying to wrestle with everything. The facilitator came up with a subcommittee concept, and that's what's been happening. So late October is when they first started meeting.
Okay. And then just a quick comment on Ken's point about the consultant is Ken said, well, we want to get a consultant that get the right consultant. Now, my understanding is they've already selected the consultant, or are they still in the selection process? Okay.
Yeah, this is pre-RFP as far as I understand.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So we have selected a consultant to help us through this work group process. But the product that we're talking about essentially goes to the county, and then they will find a consultant group probably that will actually develop that plan, go through the sort of the procedures on it. So I'm just very concerned. I very want to make sure that the language of that RFP, opens the door essentially to future thinking rather than past oriented consultant groups. We really want to get to the top one. Oh, Daniel's appearing on the screen, which means that we have limited time left. I think we're at the 3-minute mark here. Is that all you wanted to communicate, Daniel?
Yeah, just a quick time check. Thank you.
Yeah, indeed.
Can we go a little longer? Because there were problems setting this thing up. I mean, like 5 minutes or something.
Yeah, let's go to 7:05.
Okay.
Okay, great. So yeah, questions, Chuck?
I just want to follow up, so everybody knows too, before it goes to the county, then if I understand it correctly, it'll come over SWAC, DSAC to look over too. And that gives Brent time to join in, looking at that, and then it goes back to the Benton County Talks Trash, and then from that, then it goes to the county. I think that's the way it's shaped, if I remember correctly.
I believe that's correct. So yeah, it will come back to us, the whole big thing for our review. Yeah, Debbie.
Hi, everybody. I had a couple questions. One was for Daniel. I'd like to kind of know the status of the Board of Commissioners on SWAC. So as when the whole consultant process of common understandings extends, are we still on hold, or, are we just kind of like, there's a lid on us except for work group till then? And the other thing related to a comment that you had, I agree that it should, with what Marge was talking about with the sustainability and future of our county plan. It's also, this is all taxpayer funded. And so there's no point in reinventing the wheel, and a template of a well-working plan in a different county or a different state can still be a good start instead of reinventing everything. And that's all I had to say.
Yeah, so I guess over to you, Daniel.
Yeah, so the Board of Commissioners kind of direction to SWAC and DSAC hasn't changed. They haven't indicated any specifics on when that direction would change and when that would open up to exploring more topics outside of this liaison opportunity, except for the approved work plan for BCTT includes SWAC and DSAC feedback on a draft of the kind of work product by February 10th. That feedback would be due. So that would be a piece that the Board of Commissioners has approved for SWAC and DSAC to participate outside of this liaison opportunity. But beyond that, I'm not sure. We haven't received any more guidance from the BOC.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments on what's going on? Yeah, Chuck.
Just a slight tremor in the universe, if you will. There's been an extension, if you would, with the committees to go to February, which is good because we haven't crossed all the bridges yet to get, all the information. But there was a little subtlety in the language with Republic that they were under the impression we would have everything done in October, and I'm not sure if they were committing to the February timeline, but that needs hopefully they're on task to go the whole February with the committee and committees and subcommittees to get resolution. That keep my fingers crossed.
So after February, we're back to, well, almost, I guess we could meet in March, maybe.
Yes. And take a look at our backlog. Yeah, Brent.
So quick question, this RFP that's going to go out to ask for to consultants, when is that RFP due to go out?
I don't think there's a timeline yet.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I think getting I think what I'm hearing is part of that plan will be getting an accurate count of, size of landfill and the estimated volumes and what the projected life is. Is that correct with this we'll get out of this?
I think it's supposed to be, well, it's actually supposed to be the more long range. The idea of this sustainable materials management plan is an overall arching plan for Benton County in the long term. So it would, the landfill capacity, all that would probably be brought into it as part of it, but it's only part of the whole big picture. So this is like looking at other options for the county for, I don't know, 20 or 30 years out.
Right, so it's post-closure of the landfill.
Yeah, most
Um,
likely.
Oh, so, okay. All right, thanks.
Well, I guess I shouldn't say that for sure.
Yeah.
You know, I
Mhm.
think that's all part of the scoping of the plan is the county is going to decide exactly what duration of plan they're looking for, whether it's 10, 20, 30 years, et cetera. I think that from my point of view, I would be agitating for a long-term plan because those things have really been ignored up till now. And I think the county has really suffered for it. So, I mean, part of the recommendation I would make is to really be talking about a long-term plan.
What
Okay,
was the
we
last?
have only-
Oh, 1 minute. Yeah. Charlie, Chuck, go.
In our last minute here, Chuck, you.
No,
You're
really.
muted, Chuck.
Galen it to him. Yeah. Oh, God.
Thank you. If I understood Republic correctly, the reason they couldn't share immediately all the information was due to some proprietary
That's horseshit.
Yeah, with their software. But the implications of that, I think they will be getting close to review it first with Benton County staff there, so they can just work through the proprietary software or data. Then once they get that clarified, that involves also Knife River. Then I asked Bill, would you be able to report back to us? And there was affirmation with him that he could once they cross that bridge, if I understood it correctly.
Sure. Okay, folks, we're out of time. We've pushed Daniel to his limit. I don't want to push him any farther. So
Nice to finally meet you,
uh,
Brent. I just want to say.
Likewise, thanks.
yeah, thanks very much for showing up, Brent, especially from your sick bed.
Yeah, get better.
Thanks all of you who showed up. Debbie, John, we really enjoy seeing you and hearing your questions. It's good for us also to kind of go through and catch up with each other about what's kind of going on in these very many parts. So I think that's all. Good evening, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
I'm gaveling it closed. Bang.
All right, thanks.
Bye.